Hey everybody, this is Jonathan Schranz, and I actually got my kids running around upstairs. They're having a blast. There might be a little bit of audio in the background, but I wanted to sit down here and make this video for you guys today because I just won a game in 10 moves. I beat the French defense using one of my favorite opening weapon surprises, the Orthoschnapp Gambit. And the real reason I wanted to make this video is my opponent actually played a line that I don't think we've discussed here on the main channel, so I wanted to take the opportunity to look a little deeper into the theory. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to go back and see the original video that I've already made. But you heard me right. I did say main channel because breaking news, there is now a second channel you can subscribe to for more Jonathan Schranz content, all the way up to 4 subscribers. This will be the channel where I post a lot of the sillier chess content, the stuff that doesn't really belong on my educational channel, and I might even be posting some gaming content as well. Did you know I'm a world record holder in Diablo 2? Big time speedrunner these days. You don't want to miss it. All the way up to 9 views, double-digit views coming right up. It's hot and booming. You don't want to miss out. Make sure you subscribe. But with all that in mind, we will get serious here for a second and take a look at this game and get into the theory of the Orthoschnapp. So the main idea here for white is I'm going to recapture one time with the c-pawn on d5 and play the move queen to b3. The main idea is if black accepts the gambit, which my opponent did, bishop to c4, and we get this very interesting position right out of the gate. So we are already asking black a very serious question of how they're going to defend that f7 pawn. We are down a pawn as white, but if you think of it from our perspective, white has a very easy time coordinating all the pieces, finding harmonious squares. For example, we can just play knight to c3 next. If this pawn does get defended, we can always play d3, even if we sacrifice a second pawn. In order to get this bishop out somewhere on this diagonal, knight comes to f3, and white castles. Castle kingside, castle queenside. I'll let you know later once I know what you're up to. And if you flip the board around for just a minute, it's not so comfortable for black to defend this pawn. If you use a knight, you always got to worry about somehow this bishop in some line might be taking the knight. And if you use a queen, the two main ways of doing it are queen to e7 and queen to d7. Again, there'll be a link if you want to go and learn kind of the main lines about this opening in the description below. Both of them have consequences, though. You are blocking in your bishop. So what I want to talk about is actually the second most popular move. This is what my opponent played, queen to f6. This also isn't an ideal square for the queen because you're kind of in the way of your knight a little bit, but it does have the benefit of defending this pawn. This probably is possible for black. There is a move that black can play. However, after knight to c3, white's main move, attacking this pawn, black has never actually played the main move. There's one way for black to get an advantage here, but if you take a look at the Lead Chess database, nobody is playing it. This is a big surprise for everybody. And let's take a look at a lot of these moves here. They're actually all mistakes for black. So if you do get this position and they play queen f6, chances are they're not going to be prepared. If the opponent was prepared to try to get an advantage, they probably would have picked one of the two main lines. So there's a very good chance you get here, you're going to be able to win this game. And my opponent, unfortunately, actually played the worst move in this position, which we'll start with, which is bishop to f5. And perhaps you've already spotted the reason this is a horrible mistake. Black is now losing, but it's really weird, and especially in a blitz game, it's so weird for the queen to be out here on b3. And it just seems like a natural idea to play bishop to f5. And in fact, a lot of people have fallen for this. 127 people have fallen for this. So I think my opponent just became the 128th victim of this trap. But after bishop to f5, you can take now on b7. And obviously here I'm going to be winning the rook, so I should be able to win the game. It was a nice clean finish, so we'll just show the rest of it. I took the rook. Black decided to go back. Obviously, there's some temptations to maybe trade the queen in this position, but much stronger is actually taking on f7, trying to remove the defender of the queen. My opponent did not want to take my bishop, but now he gets hit yet again by another removing the defender move. Knight to d5 was the finishing touch. My opponent had to resign here, because if you take my bishop or you move your king, I'm going to take your queen. So a very nice, easy, clean win, because my opponent played bishop to f5. But let's see here. It's not so easy. Obviously, bishop f5 is wrong, but it's not so easy. What else could black play? Well, the most popular move is actually knight to c6. And this is obviously a very normal idea for black. What black should be aiming for in these kinds of positions is you're trying to play knight to a5, but before you do it, you really need to block this diagonal just to make sure that there's no checks against the black king. So one of the normal ideas for black is to play bishop d7 and then try to play for knight to a5. This in real life is hard for people to play because you are offering a sacrifice. You're giving white the opportunity to take on b7, and often white actually might end up material, because if we take on b7 and they play rook to b8, maybe we're going to take the c pawn, but very often this is a very good way for black to try to combat our opening, give a little bit back to try to slow down white's attack. However, there is ways for white to even improve in this position. The main move is knight takes e4. This is obviously a super logical move, but I think white could do even better by playing knight g to e2. And it's not really about the material. What this move does is, first of all, it blocks the e-file. So we're going to come back. Let's look at some lines where we actually take on e4. It'll be much nicer if we take on e4 and queen e7 doesn't actually do any damage on the e-file. We're also just getting ready to castle, and we're saying the whole point is I'm not even worried about the pawn. I'm going to get more developed. I'm going to get castled as quickly as possible. If you play knight takes e4, this actually might work in black's favor. Black can actually choose between two moves. They both might be pretty good for black. The queen can go to e7, which has the idea of pinning on the e-file. You're not actually winning a piece after f5. We'll see why in just a second. But also queen to g6 with a double attack also seems like a very logical play for black. But queen e7 is definitely good enough. But the point is, after d3, you're not actually winning a piece with f5. This is an idea worth taking note of because it does recur in some of these lines. And the reason is, if the f-pawn moves, this knight is hanging. So we can go here, but after they take back, white is going to have to waste time. We're going to have to either move this guy back, we're going to have to develop to e3, and black should slowly be able to neutralize some of our advantage. We've traded some pieces, and now we have to waste some more time running away with our bishop. So for that reason, if they play, one more time, if they play knight to c6, knight g to e2 is what I would say is good to go. This would prevent any of these nasty queen e7 stuff. Now if queen g6 in a lot of lines, we can always just castle. And for whatever reason, there is always this mistake. Most players seem to make this kind of mistake. I don't know what it is. It occurs in all sorts of lines. They put the knight here and they jump immediately to a5. This is just not very good because we just simply give this check. If they don't already have a bishop on d7, this means the knight is going to be hanging and black is forced to waste a little bit more time. So this obviously is in our favor. Now we have time to do whatever we want. We can grab this pawn. We can get castled. I do want to illustrate one more little trap that maybe white can set. We are so far ahead in development now. We can play knight takes e4 with an idea that if queen g6, this looks like a pretty hot idea. You know, it's a double attack. Maybe white will need to move one of these knights to g3. Well, you can actually just castle. And this sets a little trap that obviously if you take here, black has just blundered the queen away. Bishop takes f7 is a discovered attack. So because of the way we're already way ahead in development, tactics are always going to favor the player with the white pieces in this kind of position. So this should be good for white. But that's just the kind of mistake that players with the black pieces make all the time. So one more time, knight to c6, play knight g to e2, then decide if you want to castle, take this pawn, see what black does, take it from there. Another popular move is bishop to c5, which this actually is just yet another mistake. Because now white can, it's a counterattack. You know, they're attacking our f-pawn. We attack their f-pawn. They saw it. It looked good. But now we can just take right here on e4. And the situation is a little bit different now after queen to e7 because we actually have a very good move here. Obviously, you might be thinking, okay, we got to play d3. But then again, there's f5. And are we going to go in for this kind of stuff? Yet again, this should be good for black, right? It was good for black last time. Should be good again. Well, here we actually have the move bishop takes f7, where black is going to be forced to trade the queens. So the best that black should be able to do here is going in for these trades. We'll pick up this piece. This is unclear. It should be a little bit better for white, but obviously this is still a fight. So black could play this way, but white still has just a little bit of an advantage in a position like this. The other option would be maybe black is very clever decides I'm going to play king to f8. Not even going to bother because this knight is still here. It's trapped in a pin. Well, now we can just play pawn to d3. There's no f5 to really kick this knight away. We are attacking this knight, so for example, it's going to need to add probably a little bit more pressure, but you know, we're going to be able to keep defending. I think there's other moves here as well, but okay, this looks simple enough. We just keep developing, and this should be absolutely fine for us. Whenever point black decides to take here, we'll trade, and then we'll win this bishop back. Should be good for white. So that's not really a problem. After knight to c3, what else has been played? Queen to g6. This is also another interesting idea. Defending the pawn and attacking here. This seems to be very logical. However, there really is no threat to take here. If we just play knight g to e2, just a normal developing move, there really is never a good time for black to trade the g-pawn for the f-pawn. For example, if they just take here, it's now just going to be completely lost. We first snatch on f7. King's got to go somewhere. King to d8, for example. Rook g1. This is starting to look very dangerous. You can take our pawn, you can go back, but with the king in the center, white should be able to get a huge advantage. We're also on this knight, so it looks like we're actually just directly going to be winning some material, whatever black decides to do. So something like this actually would be terrible. What should black do, though? Let's have a quick look. I'm hearing some noises upstairs that make me think a daddy might be required any moment now. So what should black actually play if they end up in this position? The move is really weird. And you have to find these kinds of moves all the time if you're playing the Orthoschnapp as black, which a lot of times means you kind of need to have some idea going into the game. The interesting move that black can play here is actually knight to d7. It's a really strange looking move, but the idea is the knight goes to c5, and this breaks the harmony of the queen and bishop on this diagonal. It's really annoying for black that we have this pressure on f7. So if somehow, some way, black can relieve the pressure, he might be able to get a good position. But okay, the game will continue. Knight takes e4, something like queen e7. We can always play d3. We can always play knight to e2. Either one of these moves are fine. Because again, for example, if they take here, we have a very strong reply. Bishop takes f7. And this is actually one of the coolest lines. We've given up a whole piece. Black is like slightly better here if you put this on an engine. But it goes something like this, where we can pick up this guy here. And yeah, I can tell. I hear some noises. Don't know if you guys hear them too. But knight c5, I think, is if I remember right, is what black should be doing here. Should be getting an advantage. I'm going to go be a dad, though. So if you did like this video, make sure you hit like, share, subscribe. Check out the second channel. Check out my other Orthoschnapp videos. I'm out of here, guys. I'll see you later.